Hey folks, I'm Robert Green. I lead product management for Oracle's autonomous database services on dedicated infrastructure, and here to talk to you today about Oracle Exadata Cloud Customer and how autonomous makes it even better. Okay, I may say a few forward-looking statements in this discussion today, so keep that in mind. So what this is really talking about is cloud and cloud benefits. Businesses are seeking the benefits of agility, lower costs, and lower risk by moving to cloud. Okay, the agility is there because it's a software-defined everything. You can just spin up these environments and tear them back down on the fly really quickly. Doesn't require a high capital expenditure. Lowers your cost because there's a lot of automation, and so there's less sort of manual work going on. And it's more of that pay-per-use model. It's subscription. So you turn things off, you turn them on, and you're only paying for them when you turn them on. Okay. There's less risk involved in that you can have very standardized deployments, which are giving you high availability architectures and things like that out of the box. So you get all these things that you're looking for in the benefits of cloud. And when you translate that to database services in the area of agility, you're thinking about instantaneous databases. So self-service database. You're looking at simplified microservices architectures where you can have individual pizza teams that are working on different modules in an end-to-end solution using their own database, but yet those databases are all running on a common management platform. They have a common security model. They have a common high availability model and all of that stuff. So it makes it much easier to deliver that microservices-based solution. And ultimately you get faster time to value because you can just spin this stuff up, try things out. And if it makes sense and it works, you move it forward in your business. If it doesn't, you toss it aside. In the area of lowering costs, you get pay-per-use on-demand databases. So as you use databases and cores, that's when you pay for them. If you're not using them, then you don't, right? So it's not like you buy these perpetual licenses. You can scale online up and down on demand as needed by the business. And that helps you moderate your costs for true needs. And ultimately that automation means that you've got less DBAs, and that helps to lower your costs as well. And you're focusing on more important things for your business instead of doing mundane activities like patching and backup, right? So those things just happen for you automatically. And in the area of risk, because these deployments are standardized, they happen the same way every time. You don't have to worry so much about configuration drifts. And so you get a much more stable deployments. Your high availability configurations are out of the box. You just click a button. All of a sudden you've got clustering, you've got replication across physical data centers. You get a complete security model because the patching and all that stuff is constantly keeping you up to date and keeping you up to date with all those security patches as well. So you get all these benefits in database services that are correlating with those benefits you're looking for going to cloud in general. Now, the issue is not everybody can just go to public cloud, okay? You want those public cloud benefits, but you really need them for on-prem applications because as a business, you have data sovereignty issues that are preventing you from just going to a public cloud. I mean, you may have a regulator that says, no, you can't take that app and that class of data into a public cloud, okay? So it's just not allowed. Or you're dealing with an enterprise architecture where things are so intertwined and complex, you can't easily take one piece of an app and bring it into the public cloud because it's connected. It's connected through events and messaging and your service-oriented architecture back into other databases. And if you just try to pick one piece up and move it, well, that introduces a lot of latency because there's distance basically between your app tier and your data tier, and that causes issues. And then just security controls in general. I mean, you may have corporate policies that just say, you can't take certain classes of application, mission critical apps and things like that to public cloud, right? So for various reasons, you want all these cloud benefits, but you can't just go to a public cloud to get them. And that's where we deliver to you our Exadata Cloud Customer platform. And this takes a cloud platform and brings it to you in your data center so that you can have those database services and all the benefits of public cloud, but without having to go to public cloud. And so what you get here is you get an Exadata database class database service that Oracle is managing for you on your behalf. So the people who are developing the database are actually the ones who are managing it for you. So it's an Oracle managed solution. And it does require you to subscribe to infrastructure. That's a pretty heavyweight operation to move some cloud infrastructure into your data center. So it requires you to subscribe to some amount of infrastructure for a 4-year period, but it's a minimal cost for that base infrastructure. And the real costs come when you use databases and when you activate these VM clusters that run on that infrastructure, and you assign and allocate cores to those VMs. And then you scale those VMs up and you scale them down, okay? And so your costs go up and down as you scale those VMs in this platform in general. And when you turn the databases on inside those VM clusters, you can either bring the licenses that you've already got as part of your EULA, or if you don't have a EULA, an unlimited license agreement with Oracle, then you can just use the license included model. So it's just a slightly different cost per OCPU, but the bottom line is you pay for what you use. So autonomous database. Now, what is autonomous database? Autonomous database is a new era in database where you're modernizing to the point where everything is automated. And it really is, it's called the autonomous database, but it's really a service, a solution. It's an entire architecture. It's not just the database. And it requires automation at the infrastructure level, automation at the database level itself, and automation at the data center operations level. And all these things have to come together to deliver this end-to-end solution. And that's done by us introducing a kind of AI operational DevOps layer that is effectively running that database and using automation and software to monitor the health and provide the database lifecycle. And so we're doing that using machine learning operations through the entire LCM. So the provisioning, clustering, disaster recovery protection, tuning of the database, scaling it up and out, all of that stuff is happening automatically in the autonomous database. So when you look at the top 10 capabilities that you would be seeking to get by using autonomous database, you should be thinking about things like the auto provisioning, so instantaneous self-service database that's on the entire Oracle hardened stack. So active rack clustering and active data guard replication across multiple geographies, all that stuff at your fingertips instantaneously. Automatic configurations for the different workloads. So if you're running a data warehouse workload versus a transaction processing workload versus some JSON document store kind of workload, those are all configured differently, but automatically out of the box. Okay. Things like auto indexing, where you don't even have to worry about being a DBA expert, deep dive. How is it that I introduce these secondary indexes to make my queries faster? You can just turn on auto indexing and it'll happen for you automatically. Auto scaling, as the workload is flowing through the system, it will automatically allocate more OCPUs, more cores to that workload based upon the demand. So it'll automatically spawn parallel query slaves to run large-scale data warehousing workloads, and then move those parallel query slaves off of those cores and turn them off and reduce your costs when you're not running that kind of workload. So all that scaling is just happening automatically for you up and down. Automatic data protection by giving these standardized configurations and the automatic security patching that's happening for you. Automatic failover capabilities. So if you choose to deploy these database services with a high availability SLA tier that puts you in where you're running in multiple physical locations, all the failover and all that stuff is handled for you automatically. All the disaster recovery is done under the covers by the service itself. Backups are all automated in this service. All the patching from the fleet perspective, all your databases will all get patched, automatically through this underlying DevOps platform that's managing the entire infrastructure. And ultimately, we are looking at all the patterns of how everything is running and looking at failure cases, which might be coming down the pipeline based upon patterns that we see. And we get in front of these failure cases and we adjust your database services in order to keep you online and healthy and give you these high SLAs. And we worry about anything that's happening in terms of failures at the hardware level, operating system level, the database software itself. We deal with it. Okay. So it's a pretty powerful set of capabilities that are coming to you. And ultimately, those machine learning driven operations are giving you an effortless kind of operational and performance excellence. Looking at that infrastructure, detecting anything that's going wrong and dealing with that on the fly through active configurations, dealing with any kind of situation in terms of hang management, monitoring the logs for errors that are happening, looking for anomalies, dealing with switchover at the database operations layer, and even optimizing and tuning your SQL, doing the automatic indexing, and ultimately dealing with all the statistics and everything as your data changes over time, and adjusting the SQL plans and everything to give you the best performance. All that's happening out of the box with Autonomous Database. And so when you introduce Autonomous now on Exadata Cloud Customer, you're getting all those benefits of Autonomous Database that we talked about in your data center. Okay, so now you've got the Exadata Cloud Customer platform running the Autonomous Database Cloud Service. And so it's the same thing. It's Oracle managed, but now it's not just the infrastructure layers that's managed, it's not just the platform, but it's also the software. It's also your guest VMs, your database homes, right? Managing that entire database stack. You still have to subscribe to the infrastructure, but we even are more efficient in the auto-scaling areas. Instead of you allocating cores to VM clusters and paying for those VM clusters as you manually scale them up and down, it's automatic. It's only charging you when you create databases. So you can create big VMs with lots of cores. It doesn't cost you anything. Only when you create autonomous databases, and when those databases scale up, you pay a little bit more for the scale up, and when they scale back down, you reduce your costs. All that happens automatically in the same either bring your own license or license included models. Okay, and so the other thing that you get with Autonomous Database on Exadata Cloud Customer is you get a little bit more control, and this kind of comes with the Autonomous Dedicated model. You get a little bit more control for a security and performance isolation that you might look to roll out in your typical sort of mission critical deployments, where you're dealing with a large spectrum of databases. And when you are not worried about so much the simple ones, the sort of, the fairly important databases, but you're looking more at business critical, mission critical databases, you start wanting to have controls where you sort of separate out your dev test from your UAT and your systems tests, and ultimately your production, right? And so you get policies in the Exadata Cloud Customer model that allow you to sort of set up these different environments and set scheduling and all that stuff, so that the autonomous automation is able to roll out, for example, its patches and all that stuff into your dev test environments before they hit your UAT, before they hit your prod. And so therefore, you have the ability to, on these much more business critical, mission critical databases, to trust and verify that the autonomous database software is doing what it's supposed to. It's living up to its promise. And if it's not, then you have an opportunity to raise your hand and say, hey, your autonomous software was not supposed to introduce any performance regressions, and yet it seems to be doing that in my UAT. So don't let the autonomous software patch my production until you figure out what's going on with that. Right. So, and that way you can harden that AI operational layer over time, and you get more and more comfortable. And so it's a journey, and over a period of time, more and more of your business critical, mission critical databases will run just completely in this autonomous mode, and you'll have no hesitation because you'll have trusted and verified that operational model. And then you just click a button and say, I want you to completely handle this one without my oversight. And so the advancements that autonomous database is bringing to the CloudCustomer platform, why it makes it better, is that you move to an Oracle managed model where you're getting all the additional value of autonomous database, but at the same basic cost structure that you had with the Exadata Cloud CloudCustomer platform in general. But you get all that extra automation, and Oracle's worried about not just the infrastructure, but the guest VMs, the operating system, and there's more automation in the patching layers and things like that. That's all handled by Oracle, but yet the cost is the same. So you're getting more for less, basically. You get a lower total cost of ownership. That AI software operational layer is introduced, where it's governing all of the high reliability through Oracle's maximum availability architecture. So we're deploying that stack, and our AI layer is managing the health of that stack and dealing with observing conditions that might require failovers and failbacks and those kinds of things for you, okay, automatically. And so it's introducing a better sort of stability, performance, and cost profile as well, because inside this infrastructure, we're managing the placement of all the databases. So you just create autonomous databases. Inside your infrastructure, we figure out how to lay those databases out across the various compute servers in order to optimize the availability of the database under different potential failure conditions at the hardware level and the operating system and all of that. So we're protecting you, and we're optimizing the bin packing of those databases in highly consolidated environments. And ultimately, we've got that ML layer, which is driving this DevOps model and doing all the diagnostics and automatically repairing things for you. Okay, we also give you an additional self-service API, which introduces a lot of ease of use, because this is the database level API. This is the autonomous database. So rather than just dealing with the higher level constructs of infrastructure, the APIs for VMs and APIs for containers, you actually get an API at the database layer. And then ultimately, we're giving you a better billing and auto-scaling model, because you're not managing things at the VM cluster level. You're just worried about the databases activated, the cores activated on a database itself. And so you can set up all this underlying infrastructure and VMs and containers. If you don't run any databases, it doesn't cost you anything. It's only when you actually turn on databases and those databases auto scale up and down that you add and reduce your costs, right? So it's really a true pay-per-use model. And ultimately, it's even slightly more secure because we're locking down that VM, okay? Humans don't go into that VM. It's all software that is managing the lifecycle of the database inside the VM, and the operational model and all that stuff is built and designed in the software in such a way that there should be no human that has to access it, and everything is kept consistently configured across all of your instances. So it's a lot of value add to what you are already getting out of the Exadata Cloud Customer platform. Now, one of the things that is interesting here is again, autonomous database is a journey, right? And it does require that you're on the latest database release, 19C and above, the long-term release. And so sometimes, when you come on-prem, you've got some of these environments that you want to get that pay-per-use model. You want to move to the subscription. You want to be able to, scale up and down, and you want to get the, patching automation and all of that. But it's harder for you just to move to some of the later releases. And so you need to stage that over time. And so you might want to mix these Exadata databases with the autonomous databases, okay, on the same infrastructure. And today you can't do that. Today you have to have a separate physical infrastructure, and you create a cluster that's just for autonomous databases. Or on another infrastructure, you can create multiple clusters that run Exadata database services. Very soon, coming in, towards the end of this calendar year, so somewhere between now and the first quarter of this coming calendar year, you're going to be able to deploy multi-VMs that are both autonomous and non-autonomous. And so that allows you to take your entire database estate and move it into this CloudCustomer model, into the platform, and get the benefits of agility, lower costs, and a better risk profile for all of your databases. And then over time, you can move those into the autonomous model. And like I said, it's a journey. So over a period of, depending on the size of your company, 6 months, a year, 3 years, et cetera, you'll eventually move everything into this autonomous model, which is really the future of database for Oracle Exadata platform. And so this allows you to modernize. It allows you to modernize your IT, because what it's doing is taking that traditional model where you would manage the entire stack, and it's allowing you to move the things that need to stay for various reasons in a slightly older model, okay, due to just the way the software was written or whatever. You still get Oracle managing all the infrastructure layers and giving you APIs to help you automate some of the database lifecycle and dealing with some of the operating system patching and things like that. But you're fully in control inside your guest VMs, right, inside your DOM-Us. And then it also allows you to deploy clusters with autonomous, where the entire stack, all the way up through the database, is managed by Oracle. And so that it allows you to basically make that journey to eventually move and consolidate your entire database estate into this more modernized platform. And so that brings tremendous value. From a data management modernization perspective, autonomous database eliminates a lot of complexity that was there. So all this database administration stuff that you used to have to deal with, and provisioning and patching and upgrades and backup and dealing with rack clusters and data guard and SQL tuning, plan management, statistics, all that stuff, you don't have to worry about it anymore. All the systems admin stuff, firmware patching and hypervisor management and cluster networking and ASM volume management, all that stuff that you used to have to do, you don't have to do it anymore. And ultimately, even the capacity management is much more forgiving and much more in this cloud kind of model, where at least at the database layer, we're managing the bin packing of all these databases in the underlying infrastructure and helping you optimize how it is that you use that, and driving all of that into this self-managing, self-tuning, self-securing database model. Okay, so tremendous benefit. And so there's a few things that you should remember from this presentation. Is that the three key things is that the Exadata Cloud Customer platform is bringing all the benefits of cloud to you in your data center. Okay, so all the cloud agility, that financial subscription model, pay-per-use model, and the lowering of the risks involved in and trying to lift and shift all this stuff into cloud to get those benefits. You don't have to lift and shift anything. You can leave it on-prem and bring these cloud database services and get those advantages right there for your existing apps. Okay, autonomous is a journey. You get the benefits of the database services for all of your databases in the Exadata Cloud Customer platform. So you can have a mixture of both the Exadata database-based services and the autonomous database while you transition to this autonomous model. You put your trust and verify policies in place, you let the autonomous software work, and over time you move more and more things into the autonomous model. And ultimately, you can modernize your data management with autonomous database. It really is the future of database for Oracle on the Exadata platform, and it allows you to automate your database use, removes all of the administrative burden that you used to have to deal with in traditional IT, and ultimately provides a full self-service consumption model for database. So with that, I want to thank you. And just a pointer, if you're interested in autonomous database on Exadata Cloud Customer and you don't have an actual Cloud Customer infrastructure in your data center yet, you can actually go to the public cloud and use the autonomous dedicated infrastructure option, which is exactly the same as Cloud Customer. It's just running in the public cloud. And that gives you the opportunity to try out all the feature functionality and just kind of kick the tires and prepare you for ultimately then a decision in terms of how it is that you bring and adopt that in the on-prem world with the Exadata Cloud Customer platform. So with that, I want to thank you. Have a great day, and I hope you found this presentation valuable. Have a great one.